Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today to The Stars Stand Out, Why Professional Performers Will Get Your Web Series Noticed. My name is Taisa Dekker, and I am the Industry Relations Staff Person at ACTRA Toronto, and part of my work involves reaching out to emerging content creators and letting them know how to work with our fantastic ACTRA talent. Joining me today as my co-host is the fantastic Lisa Michelle Cornelius. Lisa Michelle is an actor and singer based in Toronto. She stars as Chloe in Band Ladies, for which she was nominated for a 2021 Canadian Screen Award for Best Lead Performance in a Web Program or Series. She also appeared in Star Trek Short Treks as Lieutenant Sarah alongside H. John Benjamin and Rosa Salazar. Fun fact for the Trekkies out there, Lisa Michelle's character was the first Black Trill, who's a particular humanoid species, in Star Trek franchise history. Making history, that is Lisa Michelle Cornelius, ladies and gentlemen. Some of her other acting credits include Black Mirror on Netflix, A Christmas Carousel on Hallmark, The Color of Love, Lifetime, and more. As a musical theater performer, Lisa Michelle starred in the first U.S. national tour of Godspell and performed as a shapeshifter in the award-winning production Obeah Opera by Nicole Brooks. Lisa Michelle dedicates energy and time into serving her artistic community as well. She is one of the founding members of Canadian Black Entertainment and serves as an elected ACTRA Toronto and ACTRA National Councillor. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Lisa Michelle, to talk about the performer perspective. So before we get started into the presentation all about the ins and outs of how to contract ACTRA performers on web series, I would love to hear your thoughts, Lisa Michelle, on web series productions. As a professional performer, what do you like about working on web series, and why do you think that creators should work with ACTRA talent?
Hi, everyone. First of all, it is such an honor and so humbling to hear your bio read out loud while you're listening to it. Thank you, Taisa, for that wonderful introduction. Once again, my name is Lisa Michelle, and why, or my thoughts on working on web or digital productions. What I love about it, because the web production that I worked on was ACTRA, is that it honestly, the shoot was no different than working on any other professional ACTRA set. The days were conducted the same. I felt confident with my cast members, with my crew. It was a good time. It was just like any other shoot. What is cool about working on a web series in the post-production land is that it feels still, of course, we've been watching web series for many, many years, but even still now, it still feels like it's a grassroots, a guerrilla type indie way of performing. So I felt really close to the creators of the program, which, I mean, I love being in the big programs, but you are sometimes very far from those who written it, created it, all that sort of thing. But with digital productions, oftentimes, they could be indie or just smaller in general. So you have a bit more PR, you get a bit more press, you get invited to speak on panels such as this about it, where those same opportunities aren't always afforded if you are on a bigger show, on a bigger network or things like that. So what I loved about web series is that on set, it's the same professional, awesome experience. And then after in post-production that I felt like I was really a part of driving the popularity of the series. Like I was still a part of the production way after wrap, like asked to speak on panels. We did live script readings, especially because a lot of what I've done digitally has been in the post-apocalyptic time that we've been in. Our producers were very creative in terms of getting the word out, getting it promoted. So that's what I really like about digital. It has this very special indie grassroots type feel. And I think you had a second question in there, Taisa.
I'm just wondering, that's okay. Just wondering, why do you think, as a professional performer, as an award-nominated performer, as extremely a professional in the industry, why do you think it's important for producers to consider working with ACTRA, and how would you encourage them to work with professional ACTRA talent?
I would say that because you'll hear from a lot of performers, whether they're in the union or pre-union, that it's hard to get into the union. It really is. There's no other way to put it. It is hard to get into the union. How that's a benefit to producers is that because there are certain things that you have to be required to have, whether it be a post-secondary education as a performer or experience on professional union sets, you know that when you hire a union performer, you're getting someone who's gotten their feet wet already. That's not to say, of course, we know that there's tons of talented non-union talent. Everybody who was union was always non-union at some point. So it's not to say that there's a lack of talent in either arena, but with ACTRA members, you're getting more than just a talented performer. You're getting a performer who's experienced on set. Why that's important is efficiency, because I think back to when I didn't know anything about being on set, and I thought, like, you know, my preparation was as it should be, preparing the character, preparing my lines, knowing all that stuff. And I got to set, and then people start throwing around these terms like, you know, checking the cape, back to one, doing this. And you're like, pardon? Like what? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was just really interested in playing Marigold here. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But oftentimes, because like I said, there are steps to becoming an ACTRA member. When you hire an ACTRA member, they would have had some sort of experience, all levels of experience. There's extremely experienced union performers and those who are new, but you know that they have some semblance of professional onset experience. So especially if you're making a web series for the first time, or you're an early filmmaker or an early producer, there's already going to be lots of first timers on set, a first time gaffer, a first time DP, or a lot of people who are just new at what they're doing, which is all great. We need everybody to start. We need everybody to get in, especially diverse folks. So all that to say is that if you can have an experienced performer, that's really going to add efficiency, value, and just like a little bit of star quality to whatever you're working on.
So much for that, Lisa Michelle. It's, you know, I often say, you know, when I talk to producers, I'm a staff person at ACTRA Toronto, and I can talk till I'm blue in the face about, you know, here's why you want to go with professional performers. But I think it's always so beneficial for producers, you know, to hear from artists themselves and to know why, you know, when you're planning your next production, here's why you should, you know, really consider going with professionals. So on that note, I am going to begin the stars stand out, why professional performers will get your web series noticed. So first things first, ACTRA members are professionals, and they have developed their considerable skills to help bring your script to life. It takes a lot of time and energy and passion and tenacity and funding to create content, right? It's that big development process. So you are putting your blood, sweat, and tears into your project. So as you develop that content, it's important to hire the performers who can adequately tell your story. When you work with ACTRA talent, they can help your production achieve maximum screen impact in the minimum time, right? Again, it's, you know, as Lisa Michelle was saying, it's that professional bit where, you know, they can hit their mark and take direction, take after take after take. Inexperienced producers sometimes think they can't afford to go ACTRA. Experienced producers know that they can't afford not to. So on this slide here, I've just, you know, shown just a handful of, you know, some well-renowned web series, some of which are showing this year at TOWF2021. So, you know, again, it's important to remember that if you're putting together your web series and you want the best performers for it that can really help tell your story and bring that script to life, go ACTRA. So when you're engaging performers, it's important to remember that a professional performer will be a member of ACTRA, and they will most oftentimes have a talent agent. So ACTRA's role when a person is a member of ACTRA is we negotiate the minimum fees, we organize, bargain, and advocate on behalf of our members, and we essentially state, here's how to work with all ACTRA talent. The talent agent of that individual performer is the representative of that performer only. So they submit their client for auditions, and they are responsible for negotiating above scale fees. So when you decide to go ACTRA and you become signatory and you're ready to work with our members, and then you say, hey, listen, I really want to contract Lisa Michelle Cornelius for my project, you could contact ACTRA and say, hey, I'd like to get in touch with Lisa Michelle. And we say, she's represented by, you know, XYZ talent, and we'd be able to facilitate that for you. So I always like to just sort of point out that, you know, ACTRA members are professionals and they also have agents. We all sort of work in the same system and it's all collaborative, but, you know, there is a difference between those two. So ACTRA's role. ACTRA is the union representing performers in recorded media across Canada in English language content. There are 27,000 members from coast to coast to coast, and ACTRA Toronto is the largest branch with 15,000 of those members. ACTRA is almost 80 years old. So yes, that's right. That has been almost 80 years of the union standing up for the rights of artists across Canada. The objectives of ACTRA are to organize, bargain, and advocate on behalf of the members. Organizing means getting more projects to sign on with ACTRA. So for example, if you come to us with your web series and say, hey, I'm interested in working ACTRA, how do I do that? And then you say 100% we're going to sign on with the union, that means we've organized that production. It also refers to getting more members to join the union. So while we have 27,000 strong right now, we always want more members. Bargaining refers to the negotiation of collective agreements, of which we have many at ACTRA. Today we'll speak about one of them in particular. And then advocating, this refers to the work that ACTRA does to build the industry. So here at ACTRA Toronto's jurisdiction, ACTRA sits on the City of Toronto, Film, Television, Digital Media Board. ACTRA is a member of Film Ontario, which is the stakeholder organization representing the industry across Ontario. And then, of course, nationally, our national office, handles, the national federal initiatives to, of course, ensure the creation of Canadian content. Okay, so you as a content creator, when you're working with ACTRA, you will most often be working with your branch office. So I know that TO Webfest, it has TO right there in the name, but because we're digital for the second year running at TO Webfest, we know that we might have folks joining from other regions across Canada. So let's say if you are tuning in from Medicine Hat, Alberta, you would contact ACTRA Alberta. If you're joining in from Halifax, you would get in touch with ACTRA Maritimes. So again, the first point of contact for you as a producer is to contact the branch where you are shooting your project. There's also ACTRA Performers' Rights Society. So ACTRA PRS collects use fees from older productions. So use fees are a big part of working for union members. And then there's ACTRA Fraternal Benefits Society. This is the insurance provider for ACTRA performers. So again, this is your dental, your prescription coverage, et cetera, et cetera. So the producer and the performer contribute to ACTRA Fraternal. So the performer has amounts deducted for their own benefits, and then the producer pays into it as well. And then ACTRA National, this is their logo right here. ACTRA National supports all branches across the country, and again, does a lot of that federal lobbying and advocacy work I was speaking of a moment ago. Okay, so you have a project and you're like, I want to know more about ACTRA. What do I do? Step one, contact ACTRA. That's the main step that you want to look into is just, get in touch via email. You can give us a call. ACTRA staff are working remotely in case that isn't extremely obvious from where I'm sitting. But essentially get in touch with ACTRA. Let us know about your project. And when we want to hear about your project, we want to know, how many performers are you looking to engage? Where are you shooting? Are you shooting here in Toronto? Or are you shooting in, Sault Ste. Marie? And we want to know those things. Also budget, is it just a web series where there's only 2 characters? Is it a web series where there's 30 people involved? Is there big background days? Those kind of things. Step 2, you're like, this is fantastic. Of course, I want to work with ACTRA. You become signatory to the applicable agreement. And then step 3 is you cast and go to camera. Or as I like to say, it's as simple as lights, camera, ACTRA. So I mentioned that one of the main tenets of ACTRA is to bargain, so negotiating collective agreements. So sometimes people think, oh, it's the ACTRA rules, ACTRA says this. And well, of course, if you have questions about contracting performers, ACTRA will 100% help you out in that regard. But we negotiate our collective agreements with producers. And so the Independent Production Agreement, the IPA, is the agreement that covers web series productions and long-form content. We negotiate this agreement with the Canadian Media Producers Association, and ACTRA speaks on behalf of the performers and the CMPA speaks on behalf of their producers. So I mention that because it is a collaboration between both parties to create the IPA. So the IPA covers all long-form content, and that includes web series. The agreement itself discusses wages and working conditions, and you can find it online if you're in our jurisdiction at actratoronto.com or on actra.ca. As an example of the information found in the IPA, performer rates are found in Article B101. So a principal performer is a performer that has 6 or more lines. So they're your lead performer. They're really any performer that has 6 or more lines. Under the IPA full rates, that performer would earn $807.25 for an 8-hour work session. Background performer fees are found in Article C101. But really what we're talking about today at TO Webfest is, of course, the new media section, Section E of the IPA. Now, I know it's called new media, just, I know we're in 2021, but Section E is the part of the agreement that discusses how to contract ACTRA performers on web series content. So this is a very quick Coles Notes version of IPA Section E, new media. When you're doing a web series, there are 4 different tiers available to producers, depending on the total budget of the project. So tier A and tier B, these are large budget productions. So tier A and tier B, they are a lot of times like bigger American productions, or they are extremely well-funded Canadian productions. And then tier C and tier D cover Canadian web series, and they get a discount. So the way that it works in Section E New Media is you would tell us what your budget is. You would tell us how many episodes you have, and then how many minutes per episode. And so we would, calculate that, and then you would come to a budget per minute. So in tier A and tier B, which is again our high budget stuff, tier A represents projects that have over $12,000 per minute, and then tier B is $10,250 up to $12,000. So in these two, of course, they're high budget, there's no discount. But tier C and tier D represent 0 to 75, 7,750, and then tier C is 7,750 up to 10,250 per minute. So if you are a tier C project, you get a 25% discount on performer rates in Article B101. And if you fall under tier D, you get a 35% discount on performer rates in Article B101. Now, tier D is interesting. A lot of web series that we reach out to that have never gone ACTRA before, they might have a limited budget, and they would fall under tier D, but you'll notice $0 to $7,750 per minute. There's quite a range there, right? So, if someone has that $7,000 per minute per production, fantastic. That's a pretty big difference from someone who only has $1,000 per minute for production. So with that in mind, we'll come back to that. But I just wanted to point out, if you are in these budget ranges, you would be producing under IPA Section E, New Media. Now, let's say that, you find out your project is tier D. That means you get a 35% discount on performer rates. So as I mentioned earlier, an IPA principal rate is $807.25 for an 8-hour session. But with the discount, that means you will be getting it for like about $525. Now, with that being said, as I mentioned, and I'm wondering if Michael is listening, because I think we've had this conversation in the past, but, $0 to $7,750 per minute, there's quite a range. And for years, we heard producers say, hey, listen, I really want to go ACTRA, but I'm not even in tier D. Do you have like a tier H? And so I'm happy to chat today about the Web Indie Production Guideline. Now, last year at TOWF2020, we did announce WIP, as we call it. And let me tell you, it's been a busy agreement since then. So WIP is the new micro-budget agreement for web series productions specifically. It's designed for projects with budgets that are smaller than those producing under IPA Section E. And you can find information about WIP at actratoronto.com/agreements/WIP guideline. So what's so great about WIP, you might ask? Well, as I mentioned earlier in Section E, where you have that $0 to $7,750 per minute, WIP represents projects that are, 2,501 to 3,875, or if you have 1,501 up to 2,500, or if your total budget is less than $1,500 per minute of production, WIP is the agreement for you. Let's hear it for WIP. Yay! Now, if you're wondering, okay, so what does that mean if it's a low budget agreement and the discount's available? Well, if you are a Class 1 production, a principal performer, who is again someone with 6 or more lines, would earn $312 per an 8-hour day. Class 2, a principal performer, who again is 6 or more lines, would earn $212 for an 8-hour session. And then Class 3, a principal would earn $162 for an 8-hour session. Now, those are, of course, minimum fees, and please do go ahead and go online and look at the WIP guideline. But again, you're seeing there that there's a pretty big difference even between like Class 3, where you're paying $162 for an 8-hour session, versus a Tier D new media project where you're paying $525 versus full rates in the IPA, which is $807.25. So the reason why I think this is so important, and ACTRA Toronto is so excited to talk about the WIP guideline to digital content creators, is again just knowing that don't assume that ACTRA is out of your budget. Please contact us, because again, we want to work with you. Now, if you're wondering what information that we would need from you from your project, go to actratoronto.com/agreement/WIP guidelines/WIP checklist. This is a great thing to just sort of have on hand, especially as a new ACTRA producer. If you're like, listen, I know I want the best performers possible. I think I have the budget to go WIP. What we need to hear from you. So we need to know your production team info, your budget, very important, proof of insurance, your script, your schedule, and please let us know if there's minors, large background days, stunts, intimacy, etc. So even when you're accessing low budget contracts under ACTRA, it's important to refer to the independent production agreement about working conditions on set. So the WIP guideline is a very small document. It has a lot of great information, but you always want to refer to the IPA. ACTRA's role is to protect performers and to ensure that performers are paid properly, there's proper wages and working conditions. So we are concerned with all types of performers. That being said, if you have minors, so performers under the age of 18, if you have stunts, or if you have intimate scenes, please let ACTRA know as soon as possible. When you're first doing that outreach to ACTRA, please let us know right away so we can walk you through the process of how to properly contract performers. Safety is key. Practice safe sets, as we always say, so ACTRA can walk you through the process. So if you have nudity or intimate scenes, that information is found in IPA Article A24. So if you go to actratoronto.com, you pull up the IPA. I can also put a link in the chat. Just note that please do read that section. We cover things that are important, like the casting breakdown. So as an example, if you have a character named Mo in your script, and Mo will have a scene where they are nude, or it's a simulated sexual scene, et cetera, that would go right on your casting breakdown. Now that's important for the performer because they get that breakdown from their agent, and they'll be like, oh, I really like this character. But then if they find out later on that there's involved nudity and they're not comfortable with that, they're going to be kind of miffed that they auditioned and tried to prep when it's not the type of work they want to go for. It protects you as a producer because every single performer who walks into that audition or zooms in, as we are doing these days, is understanding that if they get the character of Mo, there will be nudity involved in that project. So there's something called a nudity rider that needs to be filled out and signed by the performer and the producer 48 hours prior to the scene in question, and that will explain, the dialogue in the scene, who is in the scene, the action taking place in the scene, how the scene will be shot, which is very important, and the wardrobe involved in that scene. And the purpose of those nudity riders is that so everyone is on the same page, they know what's going to happen on the day of the shoot. It's discussed and agreed to at least 2 days prior to when it's going forward. It's just a really important thing, and it's all again about respect. This is really key right here. Closed set. No non-essential personnel should be on set for any scenes involving nudity or intimacy. ACTRA Toronto will always send a representative to set in scenes involving nudity or intimacy. And, there's also, of course, a new type of worker in the industry called an intimacy coordinator, which is really important. All that to say, all performers and producers are encouraged to check out ACTRA Toronto's Best Practices Guide for scenes involving intimacy, and I can put a link to that in the chat as well. Okay, stunts. If you have a stunt, so that can be something as simple as someone throwing a punch, or it could be, maybe you're setting someone on fire. I don't know your script, but, just letting you know that stunt coordinators at ACTRA Toronto are who you want to chat with. So if you do have stunts, please let us know, and we can send you a list of stunt coordinators. Your stunt coordinator will create a stunt breakdown, and they're responsible for on-set safety. I can't stress this enough. Only qualified stunt, performers should be doing any type of dangerous work. And that's another reason why you want to go ACTRA. ACTRA stunt coordinators have a minimum of 10 years experience working as stunt performers before becoming coordinators. And again, they are experienced professionals. They hire the stunt performers that will be doing that dangerous work. I can't stress this enough. If you have anything stunt-like in your script, please get in touch with ACTRA. Okay, if you have anyone under the age of 18 in your cast, please note IPA Article A27, which covers minors. So this has a lot of important information like having the parent or guardian on set, tutoring if the child is going to be missing a certain amount of school, reduced hours of work, working conditions like, healthy snacks, et cetera, and also if you are working with children in your cast, please reference, for those who are joining from Ontario, the provincial legislation, the Protecting Child Performers Act. This is a really important one, regardless of what industry you're in, but everyone deserves a safe and respectful work environment. Again, practicing, safe sets and just, proper communication, all of that kind of thing is so important. In the independent production agreement, the article discussing this is called Freedom from Discrimination and Harassment, and it's found in Article A503. Again, everyone should be respected when they go to work, right? It should be respectful all across the board. ACTRA, the Directors Guild of Canada, and Canadian Actors Equity Association members have access to the Haven Helpline, which is the Harassment, Anti-Racism, and Violence Emergency Network. So this is a 24-hour toll-free number and app. So if someone is on set and they experience there's an issue, an emergency, they can contact Haven. ACTRA is open 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, but as we all know, this industry is not 9 to 5 in any way, shape, or form. So it's really important for people to be able to get in touch if there is an issue. Also at ACTRA Toronto, we have an after hours reporting email address called afterhours@actratoronto.com. That's our way of saying, even though we're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, our members are always protected and taken care of. When you're budgeting with ACTRA, you want to be aware of, certain things like use fees. So use fees mean performers in qualifying categories. So speaking roles is a really very simplistic way to look at that. They are paid for their time on set, and they're also paid for the distribution of that content. New media use fees are found in Section E of the IPA, Article E108. If you have any questions about that, please get in touch with ACTRA. We can walk you through it. Fringes, this is a fancy way of saying like admin fees and producer contribution to insurance and retirement. So basically when you work with ACTRA, the producer contributes 12% of the total performer gross fees to the performer's insurance and retirement plan, which is run by our friends at ACTRA Fraternal Benefit Society. There's an ACTRA Performers' Rights Society admin fee of 0.5%, and then there is an administration fee paid to ACTRA, and that varies between the IPA and WIP. Now, when you work with ACTRA, and of course, every set should be like this, but please have performer-specific insurance in place. Performer-specific insurance is different from production insurance. It's different than your basic, your basic coverage. Performer-specific insurance needs to be in place in case of accidents or injuries that might happen to the performers. There are two companies that deal with this: Accident on Set or WSIB. Last but not least is the bond. So part of working with ACTRA and part of the reasons why performers want to join ACTRA is they know that they are protected. And one of the ways that ACTRA protects performers is by taking a bond from productions at the start of the project. So ACTRA takes a bond for the project. So it's basically a portion of your payroll, and we deposit it into a high interest bearing account. And then once your project wraps, we give it back to you. Well, why do we do that? Well, we do that in case there is any sort of emergency with the production. And let's say the production is halfway through and all of a sudden it loses funding or it shuts down. ACTRA can then at least pay the performers a portion of what they would be owed. Like 99.9% of the time, you just get your bond back because most projects go smoothly. But again, if you have questions about that, let us know. My main point about talking about budgeting and these extra things to sort of bear in mind is just to make sure that you understand, please contact us. We are so happy at ACTRA Toronto to walk you through this process and any questions you may have. Okay, it's obviously been an interesting year and a half, but the screen-based industries have been allowed to continue in Ontario and across Canada due to specific guidelines for working safely on set. As a producer, it's your responsibility for creating a safe work environment. Part of that during COVID, of course, is adhering to the provincial guidelines which speak to how to go to work safely in the screen-based industries. So in Ontario, that's the Section 21 Film and Television Health and Safety Advisory Committee. So they have the Section 21 COVID guidelines. And you can find all of this information about working safely during COVID at actratoronto.com/COVID-19 best practices. Just a note, when you are shooting currently, and I know that we're seeing those vaccination rates increase, et cetera. But just note, as a producer, bear in mind the extra costs for COVID, like having a COVID coordinator, even something as simple as PPE, that stuff can get very expensive. And of course, testing for your cast and your crew. So please do check out actratoronto.com/COVID-19 best practices. Okay, at ACTRA, we want to work with you and our members want to work with you. And one of the ways that we are able to assist producers who are wanting to find performers is through our ACTRA performer databases, actraonline.ca. Now, this is not a replacement for a casting director, but if you have a specific performer that you would like to get in touch with, or for example, you're wondering, hey, I really need someone that can, there's a proficient horseback rider, or I need someone that can play the drums, or so on and so forth. Or if you're looking for language specifics. So for example, a production got in touch with me and said, hey, we're looking for ACTRA members that can speak Farsi. Do you have that in your membership? And I was able to say, yes, here's a list. So all that to say, you can go to actraonline.ca. As a signatory producer, you would get a password to ACTRA Online, and then you can look through the databases. So we have our main channel, which is actraonline.ca, and then we have 4 microsites: background.actraonline.ca, diversity.actraonline.ca, stunt.actraonline.ca, and voice. The voice site isn't password protected, so you can go to voice.actraonline.ca and sort of see how the whole process works. Okay, really quickly, some from FAQs for you. When you go ACTRA, the best thing to do is get in touch with us, as you're developing. We hear from a lot of projects as they're applying for funding from IPF or Ontario Creates, so get in touch with us. But when it comes to actually going to camera, like your budget is locked and you know that you're gonna go ACTRA, there are certain timelines you wanna adhere to. If you are producing under Section E of the IPA, so again, your project has between 0 up to $10,250 per minute of production, so you're falling under the IPA, we would need information from you, please, at least 2 weeks prior to going to camera. Obviously, the staff work really hard and tirelessly, and we want to facilitate to ensure that you can hire professional ACTRA performers, but please do be sure that you get in touch with us with enough time to, of course, get that all rolling. For the Web Indie Production Guideline, there is a 4-week application period, so we need that time to go through the information that you send to us on the checklist and just make sure everything is in order. So that's a minimum of 30 days. So, if it's, you're hoping to go to camera on August 1st, we would need a little bit more time just to make sure that we can explain everything to you. For casting, when you are working under the Independent Production Agreement, so Section E, there's something called preference of engagement, and that means that the producer must look for the performers first in the ACTRA membership before going outside the membership and hiring a non-member. If you opt to hire a non-member because you said, listen, I auditioned 20 ACTRA members and this one non-member was perfect for the role, that's fine. They would be permitted to work on the project, and then they would get an invitation to join ACTRA. Under WIP, it's specific to ACTRA members because, again, you're getting a big discount on rates. And then just a last note about COVID-19 safety, please do adhere to the provincial guidelines. If you're not familiar with them, again, the Section 21 guidelines are really important, and just be sure that you're budgeting for the extra costs of COVID. Okay, so that was your crash course in working with ACTRA on web series productions. You can get in touch with me at tdekker@actratoronto.com. Please visit actratoronto.com to get access to the Independent Production Agreement, the Web Indie Production Guideline, information about COVID safety, and so on and so forth. And you can follow ACTRA Toronto on social at ACTRA Toronto. So I feel like I just spoke for a very long time, but now I'm gonna cede the microphone to, of course, Lisa Michelle. So again, as I mentioned, I'm a staff person at ACTRA Toronto, and I discuss contracts and I encourage producers to work with ACTRA talent, but I am definitely not a performer. I leave that to the professionals. So Lisa Michelle, I would like to hear about your experience working on Band Ladies and how it felt to get a nomination for a Canadian Screen Award for your work.
Oh man, Band Ladies was a lot of fun, right from the concept. Sorry. So I knew the creators of that program. As I was saying, like a lot of web series is like smaller and closer, a little more grassroots. So I knew them because we're like Second City alumni. And so years prior to Dana Puddicombe, who I saw somebody shout out in the chat, so you know her, which is cool. Dana Puddicombe and Kate and Molly, we all worked together and shared a lot of laughs. And then fast forward, they came up with this idea of like, hey, what if we were like women approaching middle age who decided to quit their lives, all the different aspects of their lives, and start a punk band out of sheer anger and frustration with what they're going through. And I was like, yes, I don't need to see a script, like whatever. Yes, let's try to make this happen for sure. And so right from jump, it was just a really fun concept. So the creative was really, really great. What was also really great is that in addition to being really funny women and creative women and talented, they were also extremely driven. So they worked really hard to get this production completed, but also so greatly promoted. Like it was so well loved, and I got to see a bunch of different festivals. Like the Band Ladies poster now has tons of laurels. It was like really, really exciting. And it was an easy, well, let me not say it was an easy process. I'm not one of the producers on there, so I'm sure they would like eat their hat to hear me say that it was an easy process. But what worked in their favor is that it just so happened that all 5 of the lead actors who played the Band Ladies were all ACTRA members already. We were all full ACTRA members, and that we met in class, had this great idea, and fast forward. So it was like a no-brainer that it was going to be an ACTRA production. And why that's so great is because, of course, it's fun, and your friends, if they're also creative and they're also performers and in the industry, they might have tons of great ideas. And sometimes it's hard to tell friends who maybe are not union, or maybe they're not actors, but they're thinking about producing something. It's hard to tell them, like, I'm so interested in your idea, but like, working on your project for $0 means that then I'm unavailable for work that does pay me. So even though like I want to support you and I want to see your story get made, all that good stuff, it's like it has to be somewhat of a fair exchange for your time. So what was great about this process in Band Ladies is, like I said, the fact that it was going ACTRA was just a given. So I knew that I was going to get to work with great content, with great people. I was going to be compensated for my work, and there was going to be no drama on set except for the drama that we performed. And so it was a really great experience. And like I said, fast forward, the post life of Band Ladies was great. It was nominated for an ACTRA award, actually, as well, for Best Ensemble.
Yes.
Which was also really surprising, because one thing you don't usually get as a web series is being compared to larger programs. But because ACTRA is not the Oscars, there's not like 25,000 different categories, like you can get put in the category with larger productions, which usually you would think, oh, that's not going to work in my favor. We're never going to be seen. We're never going to have a chance. But Band Ladies was nominated against Schitt's Creek, Kim's Convenience, Baroness von Sketch, and I'm forgetting one of the other huge nominees. But all that to say, like, there was so much surprising wins from like this little web series that could, including me being nominated for a CSA as Best Lead Performer in a web or digital show, which was crazy to me. I woke up to that news. I woke up to a text from my friend Dana, who was one of the creators and stars of Band Ladies, saying, "Congratulations, Miss CSA nominated actress." And I was like, my first thought was, oh, wow, that's great. Band Ladies is nominated again, like for something else that's so exciting. And she's like, no, just you, dummy. And I was like, what? It was really, really surprising. And like, again, like, because it's like a smaller production, like I feel more seen than like all of the other cool things that I've been able to do. Like Taisa read my very humbling bio and all the cool productions that I've been in, which I'm very grateful for. But, you know, they're like, they come and they go. And like, unless you're the lead of those, you know, they just, the train keeps moving. But with Band Ladies, like I felt like, although it's a smaller production in terms of like, it's not like on a network broadcast, I felt like it got more shine than anything else that I was able to do. So sometimes it's nice to be, and this happens a lot with web series in general, you can be a big fish in a small pond as opposed to being a small fish in a big pond, as both performer and producer. So the experience was great, top to bottom. And to be honest, I think it's still going. They're talking about a season 2 for it and things like that. So great times.
Awesome. Everyone should check out Band Ladies. It is just so fantastic. I can't say enough wonderful things about it.
It's on Highball TV.
Yes, thanks. Highball TV. So, you know, you spoke a little bit at the start of the presentation on why it's important for producers to choose ACTRA talent on their web series. And, you know, ACTRA advocates for performers in each city and province across Canada and nationally. The union speaks about the importance of Canadian content and ensuring, you know, copyright protections and all of that important things. And, you know, most importantly, having more Canada on our screens, right? It's like, I think COVID showed us all that, you know, we were all sort of, you know, if we were fortunate enough to be at home, you know, I think I finished Netflix myself personally. But part of that work that ACTRA does to advocate on behalf of the members involves the promotion of diversity on screen and also across the industry. And Lisa Michelle, you have been a tireless advocate for the ACTRA membership, both in your role as an elected representative on the ACTRA Toronto Council and ACTRA National Council, and as the former co-chair of the ACTRA Toronto Diversity Committee. If you wouldn't mind, could you just tell us a little bit about your work to promote culturally and physically diverse performers? And most importantly, why do you think it's so integral for producers to sort of open the scope and consider having a diverse cast on their content?
The list is endless as to why your cast should be diverse. First of all, if you're producing in Toronto, this is a diverse city. So if your cast and crew, for that matter, is not diverse, you're not representing where you live. And it's just an unfair representation, and really possibly not intentionally. I mean, we tend to gravitate towards things and people and all the things that represent the environments that we grew up in. So I get that. But now the voices are getting louder. We've all heard it. We're all being heard. There's no more deniability that like, oh, I didn't realize that my show had no physical or cultural diversity. I didn't realize, because by now you've been told or you've heard it. And further to that, like, consumers are using their dollars and their eyeballs more consciously as well. Like I have a number of people in my life who are not performers, more than not performers, who have told me that they've now started to decide on the things that they're going to watch based on what they're seeing on screen and what's being represented. I just spoke with a woman, again, who's not an actor, so not even a part of this industry in this way. And she said, now she just stops watching things where women are being victimized right off the top. Like like where there's like, it's just the whole premise is of this woman needing a male hero. And I know someone else, my sister-in-law actually, who again is the furthest thing from a performer. And she said she actually will not even continue to engage a show if she doesn't see cultural diversity in it at all. She's like, she's not interested. And then there are performers like myself, and I cannot name any shows because there are a number of them where people will talk about them and they'll be the show that's getting all the buzz and things like that. And I'll be like, I've never watched it. Like I can see that it's an all white cast and I'm not interested. Like it doesn't reflect me. And that's, to be honest, that's how I felt about even Friends, like one of the largest shows in the universe. And I was like, I immediately thought I would never relate to it. And to be fair, that might not be true. Perhaps if I watched it, maybe I would have found it funny. But like I said, consumers are getting conscious. So it pays for you to open, if people even see a bit of themselves, a tiny bit of themselves reflected in the promotion of your project, in the conversations about your project, they're more likely to tune in, engage with it, share it, tell people about it. But if right from the gate, we don't see that on the front, then you're gonna lose out. You're gonna lose out on some market share and some people who might actually be your biggest fans if it's not representative. As for the work that I've done, and it's so hard to say the work that I've done because at ACTRA there's so many people who work to champion diversity and have been. It's a lot. And this is one of the reasons that, like, I'm a proud unionist. Like it sounds so nerdy, and I'm that person on set. Like I take it personally almost when people have negative things to say. Not to say any organization is perfect, but I do know that as being a former co-chair of ACTRA's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, ACTRA's advocacy for diverse performers and diversity in the industry on a whole isn't new, and it's not something that was born of last year's resurgence of Black Lives Matter. It was not born of that. It's something that has been going on way before I even was an ACTRA member, much less an elected councillor or co-chair of the diversity committee. It's been something that ACTRA has been championing in so many different ways, putting their dollars and time and people and effort there for many, many years. And that's why it was a lot of work, but it was definitely rewarding and worth it to me to be a part of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee at ACTRA for that reason, because it didn't seem like something that was just going to be a title for no reason. So some of the things that we did, and there's so many, I implore you to go to ACTRAtoronto.com, and the Diversity and Inclusion Committee has its own page, and you can see just some of the legacy points that not just myself and my former co-chair, but all the advocacy work that's been done. But we recently, myself and my former co-chair, Samora Smallwood, put together a demo reel initiative for actors of diverse backgrounds who maybe were ready for the next step, whose career was ready to blossom and bust out, but they were just getting actor roles, which means like 1 line, 2 line, but not fulsome characters with names and things like that. So you can realistically be an actor for many, many years and not have a demo reel because all the characters you're getting are small parts, bit parts. So this initiative was meant to give quality wonderful footage of wonderful, well-rounded characters for our diverse members to have that footage to put on their demo reel for those who were ready for it. And it was a really big success. The performers who got to perform in it were really proud that they finally got to show fulsome characters and not be relegated to their cultural stereotype that the industry might have put them in, or small parts that the industry might have put them in, etc. Some of the other things are tons of workshops. So in the before times, ACTRA has a conference twice a year, and the diversity committee is always responsible for at least one. And we put on workshops with like really well-known casting directors and directors like Sud Sutherland and Winifred Jong, who have really, really notable IMDb credits if you were to check them out. And when they're available, they are willing. And then they hit the ground running with our members who get to meet them up close, which is rare because a lot of times as an actor, you don't get to meet the director, a director, until you get the job. You often don't even meet them during the audition process. So a lot of the different workshops and classes and conferences that ACTRA has puts you in direct contact with the people who are change makers or industry professionals who really have a big hand in getting us seen and getting us in front of the camera, where diversity is specific to that. So like I said, there's so much more I could say, but I really just implore you to go to ACTRA Toronto and check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa Michelle. That's just so wonderful. And for anyone who's tuning in right now, or if you're tuning in later on the recording, tomorrow at 1:30 p.m., TOWF Fest is hosting a panel discussion with the new co-chairs of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Janet Rose Nagoyan and Shatrice Dolabelle, and they will be speaking with Rodney Smith about diversity in the industry. So I really encourage everyone to check that out. That's happening tomorrow at 1:30. All right, so we have covered like a lot of information about working with ACTRA talent, why you want to work with ACTRA, you know, the ins and outs of what contract would work, all the advocacy work that ACTRA, well, not all, some of the advocacy work that ACTRA is doing, because there's always so much happening. So now I think we have a few minutes to go to the Q&A. So if any of the participants have any questions, we would be happy to answer them. Or if you're shy, that's cool too. I think we're going back out to the table after this wrap. So, you know, we can also meet there for a chat as well.
I see some questions on the side here. Like I pulled up the chat and there's like.
Oh, okay. So sorry, it didn't, I had the last ones from the last session. All right.
Maybe Rodney can help us.
Yeah, Rodney, can you? I think I'm looking at questions from a different panel. So, okay, so I think we have a question from Carrie who says, can you speak to the difference between web series under Section E and digital series intended for over the tops? Would OTT series be considered under new media Section E or another section? So they are considered new media, right? Because if you are only if you are producing something for Netflix, even though Netflix tends to have big budgets, like that's still a web series, right? I mean, it's kind of funny. You don't really think of like, certain shows as, oh, that's a web series, but it is because it's going on Netflix. So really the biggest thing is that the Web Indie Production Guideline is designed for micro budget content, right? So it's micro budget. It's for Canadian content creators. It's not to be accessed by foreign companies who are coming in saying, oh, we're only going to pay $162 for an 8-hour day. Like that's not the purpose of that. So WIP is really domestic content related. Again, if you are sort of producing already, you already have distribution on an over-the-top provider, you would definitely, that would fall under Section E. Now, of course, where it gets a little bit complicated is, as someone producing a project, for television, and then it's going to move over to new media, those are all conversations that you would just have with ACTRA, right? Because, I mean, back in the olden times when I first started at ACTRA a long time ago, it was like, okay, if it's a television series, it's a television series. That's it. And then of course, as streaming got more and more popular, just look at any of the, you can go to ctv.ca and watch the same shows that air on their, traditional television platform. So most commonly, if it's being developed specifically for, what we call new media, then that would fall under Section E. If it's something that's being developed for television and new media, that's a conversation that you would have with ACTRA, because then it would, be contracted in a different way. But most oftentimes, what's really important for ACTRA to know is what is the budget for the project, who's producing it. Again, if it's being done, where are you shooting? Like, are you going to be shooting in Toronto? Are you going to be shooting in another location? But again, and where is it playing and for how long? Right. So those are the things that we find really, really important. So again, at ACTRA Toronto, we have WIP for the micro budget content creators. For those with a bit more of a fulsome budget, we have the IPA Section E New Media, and that is across Canada, with the exception of our brothers, sisters, and siblings out in Union of British Columbia Performers in Vancouver, because they have a separate television new media agreement. But essentially, if you have questions about the project that you are doing, if you're sort of wondering where it would fit, you can always get in touch with ACTRA. Let us know the scope of your project, and we would be happy to sort of guide you to it. But at this point, I think definitely check out Section E. It does sort of go through and explain, the purpose of that language and what projects would count. But yeah, please do have a look. Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question, Carrie.